London, 1978. A small recording studio in Soho. Chris Rea sits in the control room, listening to playback of a song he's just recorded. It's called Fool, If You Think It's Over. It's not a blues song. It's soft, melodic, radio-friendly. The kind of thing that might actually get played on mainstream radio. It's also not him. Gus Dudgeon, the producer, turns to Chris with a smile. That's the one. That's your hit? Chris Rea doesn't smile back. He knows Gus is right. The song is good, technically well-crafted, commercially viable, emotionally accessible. All the things a hit song should be. But it's a compromise. And Chris Rea has spent the last 5 years refusing to compromise. He's been rejected by every major label in Britain for being too blues, too working class, too real. And now, finally, someone's willing to take a chance on him, but only if he makes this kind of music. Soft rock. Easy listening. The opposite of everything he believes in. We going with it? Gus asks. Chris Rea looks at the mixing desk. Looks at his reflection in the studio glass. Looks at the guitar in the corner that he barely used on this track. He's 27 years old. He's been trying to make it for a decade. He's broke. He's tired. He's running out of time. Yeah, he says. We're going with it. This is the story of Fool, If You Think It's Over, the song that saved Chris Rea's career and nearly destroyed his soul. To understand why Chris Rea made this compromise, you need to understand where he was in 1978. He'd been trying to get signed since 1973. 5 years of rejection. 5 years of being told he wasn't commercial enough, wasn't young enough, wasn't anything enough. His band Magdalene had broken up. His friends had gone back to Middlesbrough to get real jobs. His father kept asking when he was going to stop this music nonsense and help with the family business. Chris Rea was living in a basement flat in London that cost more than he could afford. He was working construction during the day, playing pubs at night for beer money. He was sending out demos that nobody listened to. And then, finally, a small label, Magnet Records, offered him a deal. Not a good deal. Barely a deal at all. 1 album. Minimal advance. No guarantees. But it was a yes. After 5 years of no, someone said yes. There was just one condition: he had to be willing to work with a producer. Someone who understood radio. Someone who could shape his rough edges into something commercial. Enter Gus Dudgeon. Gus had produced Elton John. He knew hits. He knew what radio programmers wanted. He knew that Chris Rea's blues-heavy demos weren't going to cut it. You've got talent, Gus told Chris in their first meeting. But you're making it too hard for yourself. Blues is dead. Working class isn't sexy. You need something softer. Something that doesn't scare radio away. Like what? Chris asked. Like a ballad. Something emotional but not too rough. Something women will request. Something that plays in the background without demanding too much attention. Chris Rea hated everything about this description. But he was also desperate. So he wrote, Fool, If You Think It's Over. Fool, If You Think It's Over, was written in 2 days. Chris Rea sat in his flat with an acoustic guitar and deliberately wrote against his instincts. He smoothed out the blues. He polished the melody. He made it pretty. The lyrics were about a relationship ending, about someone thinking it's all over when really there's still hope. It was universal. Relatable. Safe. It was everything Chris Rea had spent 5 years refusing to be. But here's the thing about compromise: sometimes you can make it work if you're clever. And Chris Rea was clever. He buried small rebellions in the song. A slide guitar lick that was just a little too bluesy for pure pop. A vocal delivery that was rougher than it needed to be. Tiny moments of authenticity hiding inside the commercial packaging. Not enough to scare radio away. But enough that he could live with himself. When he played it for Gus Dudgeon, the producer loved it. This is it. This is your ticket. Chris Rea nodded. But inside, he felt like he'd just sold something he couldn't get back. Fool, If You Think It's Over, was released in Britain in June 1978. It died. Radio stations gave it a few spins and moved on. It charted briefly at number 30, then disappeared. Music journalists barely noticed it. The public didn't care. Chris Rea had compromised everything he believed in to make a commercial song. And it failed anyway. I told you, he thought bitterly. I should have stuck with the blues. Magnet Records was disappointed but not surprised. They'd taken a chance on an unknown artist. It hadn't paid off. They'd probably drop him after the contracted album was complete. Chris Rea went back to his basement flat and his construction work, convinced he'd wasted his one shot by trying to be something he wasn't. And then something strange happened in America. August 1978. A radio DJ in California named Jim Ladd played "Fool, If You Think It's Over" on his show. Ladd was known for playing album tracks, not singles. For showcasing music that was too interesting for top 40 radio. He wasn't supposed to like "Fool, If You Think It's Over," it was too soft, too commercial. But he did. He thought it was beautiful. And he played it again. His listeners called in requesting it. Other DJs heard about it. The song started spreading across California radio. Then to other states. By September, "Fool, If You Think It's Over" was climbing the Billboard Hot 100. By October, it hit number 12. Chris Rea had a hit. In America. With the compromise song he'd hated writing. Magnet Records was ecstatic. They flew Chris to the States for promotional tours. Radio interviews. TV appearances. The whole machinery of success. But here's where it gets complicated. American radio classified "Fool, If You Think It's Over" as soft rock. This was 1978. Soft rock meant bread, Air Supply, Christopher Cross. Music that played in elevators and dentist offices. Music your parents listened to while drinking wine. It was the opposite of cool. The opposite of credible. The opposite of everything Chris Rea wanted to be associated with. But it was successful. And success, Chris Rea discovered, is its own trap. Because once you have a hit, the industry expects more of the same. Radio programmers want "Fool, If You Think It's Over, Part 2. Record labels want to capitalize on the formula. Everyone wants you to repeat what worked. And what worked was the thing Chris Rea didn't want to do. Back in Britain, where the song had flopped, Chris was still unknown. He could walk down the street without being recognized. He could play small blues clubs if he wanted. But in America, he was the "Fool, If You Think It's Over" guy. The soft rock balladeer. The easy listening artist. He'd spent 10 years fighting to be taken seriously as a blues musician. And his first success labeled him as the opposite. 1979 to 1980, Chris Rea is caught between two worlds. In America, he's mildly successful. His label wants him to tour, to promote, to write more songs like "Fool." To capitalize on the momentum. But every time he plays "Fool, If You Think It's Over, Live," a part of him dies. Because he knows, absolutely knows, that this isn't who he is. He tries to slip blues songs into his sets. Tries to show American audiences the real Chris Rea, the rough-voiced, slide guitar playing, working-class storyteller. But they don't want that. They want the ballad guy. The soft rock guy. The background music guy. His record label starts pressuring him to record more commercial material. You've got momentum, they say. Don't waste it. Give them what they want. What if I can't? Chris asks. Then you'll be a one-hit wonder. And in 5 years, nobody will remember your name. This is the trap of success. Once you have it, you're terrified of losing it. And that fear makes you compromise more. And more. Until you've compromised so much you can't remember who you were. Chris Rea stands at this crossroads. He can chase the success, write more soft rock ballads, become the artist that, fool, if you think it's over, says he is, make money, have a career. Or he can go back to the blues, risk everything, probably fail. Most people would choose option 1. It's the smart move, the safe move. Chris Rea chooses option 2. His next album, Deltics, 1979, tries to split the difference. Half soft rock ballads, half blues-influenced tracks. Chris Rea trying to serve two masters, commercial viability and artistic integrity. It fails at both. The soft rock fans think it's too rough. The blues fans think it's too polished. Radio doesn't know what to do with it. It sells poorly. Chris Rea's record label is frustrated. You had a hit. Why won't you just do that again? Because it's not me, Chris says. Then who are you? And this is the question Chris Rea spends the next 3 years answering. His albums between 1980 to 1983, Tennis, Chris Rea, Water Sign, get progressively bluesier. Rougher. More honest. Less commercial. They sell terribly. Radio ignores them. Critics dismiss them as unmarketable. Chris Rea is back where he started, making music nobody wants. Except this time, he's okay with it. Because he's learned something crucial: success that requires you to be someone else isn't success at all. It's just a different kind of failure. Fast forward to 1989. Chris Rea releases The Road to Hell. It's everything Fool, If You Think It's Over wasn't. It's dark. It's angry. It's blues rock with a screaming guitar solo and lyrics about societal collapse. It goes to number 10 in Britain. The album goes to number 1. Multiplatinum. In 1991, Oh Barge hits number 16 and becomes a massive European hit. Chris Rea, at 40, has the success he should have had at 27. But this time, it's on his terms. For being himself. For refusing to compromise. And here's the strange irony: Fool, If You Think It's Over is still played on American radio. It's still associated with him. It's still how many people discover his music. But now it's just one song in a catalogue of work that's uncompromisingly his own. The compromise didn't define him. It just bought him time to figure out who he actually was. In interviews later in life, Chris Rea is asked about Fool, If You Think It's Over. Do you regret it? They ask. Do you wish you'd never written it? He thinks about this carefully. No, he says finally. Because it taught me something important. What's that? That success for the wrong reasons is worse than no success at all. That compromise is seductive but corrosive. That you can have everything you thought you wanted and still feel like you've lost something essential. Fool, If You Think It's Over gave me a career. It got my foot in the door. It paid my rent. I'm not going to pretend I didn't need that. But if I'd kept making songs like that, if I'd let that hit define the rest of my career, I would have died inside. Slowly. Over years. Until I was just going through motions, making music I didn't believe in for people who didn't really know me. So the song saved my career. But walking away from what it represented saved my life. Here's the strange truth about Fool, If You Think It's Over. It's a good song. It's well written, beautifully produced, emotionally genuine. Chris Rea's voice on it is sincere. The melody is lovely. The problem wasn't the song. The problem was what the song represented. Because when you compromise once, when you write the thing that gets you in the door, the industry assumes that's who you are. And they want more. And more. Until the compromise becomes your identity. Chris Rea refused that. And it cost him. It cost him American success. It cost him easy money. It cost him the career he could have had if he'd just kept making soft rock ballads. But what he gained was himself. And in the long run, that's what lasted. Because here's what happened to most of the soft rock artists from 1978. They had their hits. They made their money. They repeated their formulas until the formulas stopped working. And then they disappeared. Where are they now? Nostalgia acts. Oldies stations. I love the 70s compilations. But Chris Rea? He's still making music. Still touring. Still creating. At 74 years old. Because he chose longevity over momentary success. Authenticity over commercial viability. Himself over what the industry wanted him to be. And that's the paradox of Fool, if you think it's over. The song that saved his career only worked because he refused to let it define his career.